Hello. Welcome to another installation of Writing Wednesday. I hope that you're enjoying these videos, and today I'll be answering questions, taking questions from anybody who's got writing questions. But I thought I would focus today's talk on the metaphor. Now, some people believe that metaphor in writing is flowery. It's flowery writing. The thing is the thing, and that's all it is. But even hard-boiled detective fiction, real shoot 'em up type of things, use metaphor because you can only describe a sense impression literally or by comparing it to something else. It's the only way you can absorb what's happening. Hi, guys. Good morning. Yeah, you can tell I didn't sleep well last night, so for me, this is morning. So yeah, the only way that you can describe something beyond the literal is to compare it to something else, whether that be psychological or physical. And it doesn't have to be flowery, I wandered lonely as a cloud, I mean, I'm not going to see that in John le Carré, but metaphoric writing is just comparing something to something else. Some of the most hard-boiled writers use a lot of metaphor. I'm certain that you have somebody like Raymond Chandler, one of the greats. I mean, his metaphor is fantastic. He Here's one. I was dizzy as a dervish, weak as a worn-out washer, low as a badger's belly, timid as a titmouse, and as unlikely to succeed as a ballet dancer with a wooden leg. I mean, that's hard-boiled. That's not flowery. So if you can, release the idea that metaphoric writing is ornate, is something that tries to elevate itself beyond its station, is gilding the lily, and so forth, that it's one of the writer's most important tools to help a reader see something vividly. There's Brett is saying too much metaphor and you lose a certain bracket of reader. Well, too much anything and you will lose readers because they'll just gag on it. It's like, you don't want to eat something that's just got salt dumped on it. But again, you don't want an unsalted meal either. It gives dimension. So taste, as in all things, makes the writer. But metaphor gives the dimensionality. If you say somebody was as unlikely to succeed as what was my Chandler line again that was so good? As unlikely to succeed as a one-legged ballet dancer or something like that. That's not going to turn readers off. That is going to give them a smile that you've really thought about how big, how unlikely to succeed was this person. It shows a little humor, or it can show the character's cast of mind. And I find that when I am, here's a question, could that be subjective to the material? Absolutely. Not just a character who is inclined to dramatic expression, but is unique to the character. So say if they're a plumber, their metaphors would be related to their profession. They would talk about somebody who's, disgusting as a clogged toilet. They see in terms of their profession. He's giving me one more plate to carry and I've already got an armful. Well, maybe that's not a plate. Maybe he's giving you one more responsibility or one more problem to deal with that you already have enough to deal with. So that's a way of saying you have full arms. I'm carrying a full load of plates. So that's what I mean by metaphoric writing, is going the next step and saying what more can I say about this that has something to do with showing us who the character is and how they think. You can I mean I have been doing it. Sometimes you write your scene and it seems very vague, kind of watery, you know your setup, but you can't quite, you're not quite seeing the edges of things. And then I find that doing the exercise that I had talked about back in Chekhov's Ashtray, my favorite exercises, is just making a list of things that normally have like a cliche metaphor or adjective noun pair. Big as a blank, small as a blank, quiet as a blank, loud as a blank. And you can do it for yourself, how you would respond to that, but you can also do it for the scene that you're struggling with, to find metaphors that are usable. And I do it myself. I wanted to show you today. I've been editing the second book of Marina M. So getting that ready for publication. And when you edit, you're sharpening. You're always pushing to try to find a better way of describing things, a sharper way of describing things. And so I thought I'd show you some of the exercises, some of the metaphors that I've been working with. And I'll just show you on my computer. I'm going to turn my camera around. And I guess I should say I'm working on a scene with Arkady von Princip, who is a criminal boss during the revolution in Petrograd. And he is one of the villains in the book. And he's always really scary and fun to write. And without giving too much away, if you've read the first book, you'll encounter him. So some of these will be referenced to earlier parts of the story, and some of them are new metaphors. And I'll just show you, and I do this every morning, and I make a rolling list. I don't even print it out. I just add to it, because it's the process of doing it that energizes that muscle and gives you little bits and pieces that you can use. And eventually I'll print this out, 3-hole punch, and put it in a notebook that I have of all my exercises. So here I'm going to flip this around. Let's see. Let's flip it around. Is that it? No, that's it. There we go. There we go. That's my coffee cup. Here's my computer. And I'll turn the light off. I don't know why there's a light on. I must have... Oh, you can't turn the phone while live. Okay, so you can just see what this looks like on the page, and it'll just go... what are we frozen out? Here we go. I'll just start reading it down, and I just keep this, see? So this starts out... let's do this. Okay, exercise. This is big as. This is... What have I done here? Big as, red. I wanted different reds. Red as. So I wanted to try different reds. Here is intricate as. And here is black as, soft as, hard as, clean as, dirty as, lonely as, piercing as, sweet as. I haven't done much on that. I have to come back. Certain things are harder than others. Anything that has been described a million times, a beautiful girl, something sweet, a sunset, all that. Those are actually harder than these weird ones. Capacious as, roomy as. And then what else do we have? I've been reading Sexton. And then I should have a list of other, not yet, I guess I'm working on all the ones that I'd laid out. But I'd just say like small as, cold as, and see what I got. So I'm going to read these to you. Here, I'll switch this out so I can put the phone down. Switch. There we go. Hi. So here we have, okay, now Arkady is this bad guy, so you'll have to kind of imagine, if you haven't read Marina M, what we're talking about. But we're in the Revolution. So big as one of Arkady's black horses, Arkady. Big as the Grand Canyon's footprint, big as a Siberian night. And see, we're keeping cliche, ban the cliche, kill the cliche. So nothing here should be anything I've heard before. This is me. Okay. Big as a sky on the Russian steppe, big as a Siberian night. Big as Peter the Great's boots. That's sort of lame, but, getting the Russian thing going. Thinking about that, trying to find something better eventually. Big as Arkady's vanity, big as Peter's idea, facing the Finland Gulf. That's the idea of building Petersburg. Big as a grizzly stumbled on by accident, big as Big Ben's hour hand, big as Mayakovsky's voice reciting on a street corner, big as a Soviet May Day parade, big as Stalin's mustache, big as a stack of rubles needed to buy a black market egg. How white, because the character is kind of ghostly by this point. How white was his face, white as parchment, white as plaster dust. White as grease paint, white as a boletus, it's a mushroom, in the forest duff, white as a leper's sores, white as a scoured skull, white as a toadstool, white as clabbered milk, white as cobwebs, white as a winding sheet, white as a blizzard, white as white nights, which are not, white, but I love, it's a language metaphor. White as white nights, white as maggots in rice, white as baby teeth, white and soft as marshmallow, white as funeral roses. That I like. The white carpet of your first apartment. A Frigidaire. The vulnerability of a box of eggs. Then we have red. Red as a nosebleed, red as a wound, red as liver, red as bad gums, red as amaryllis, red as a cardinal's robe, red as an oriole's cap, a wolf's tongue, red as the doorposts of Egypt, red as the death of the firstborn, red as a bull's nostrils, red as a poisoned apple. Titian red, Egyptian red, Venetian red, Bolognese, red as spaghetti sauce splattered on a white tablecloth, red as your first period staining your skirt, unstoppable red, unstaunchable red, battlefield red, post-op red, red as a Bolshevik's wet dream, red as a bureaucrat's tape, red as cherry cough syrup, sticky red like strawberry jam. Intricate as, because there's something I have to describe as intricate in that scene that I'm not happy about yet. So intricate as a Persian carpet, intricate as a Samarkand tile, intricate as a Byzantine plot, intricate as A junior high social hierarchy. Obviously, I can't use that in this book. Intricate as a young girl's emotions. Intricate as an African coiffure. Intricate as gang signs. Intricate as a Japanese tea ceremony. Intricate as a nautilus shell. Intricate as a Japanese tattoo. Intricate as a spider web in the dark. Intricate as a cat's cradle, intricate as Daedalus's labyrinthine dreams, intricate as a mathematician's logic, intricate as an appellate argument. Then we go to black. Black as a monk's cassock, black as a sable cape, black as Chinese calligraphy, black as the Soviet night, black as the subway when the lights go out, black as an empty church, black as a kiva deep underground, black as an onyx floor, black as the stairs to the cellar in my childhood, black as an orphan's eyes, black as my true love's hair. Black, that's a song, black, black, black is the color of my true love's hair. Black as a senorita's mantilla, black as lace underwear, as satin gloves, as Hugh Hefner's satin sheets, as the walls of a bachelor pad in the 60s, black as a gigolo's dyed hair, black as a Malevich square, black as a limousine gleaming in city streetlights, black as a hearse, black as hearse horses and their plumes, black as Victorian mourning, black as an Italian girl's bush, black as New Orleans coffee, black as an obsidian mirror, black as a raven's wing, as a crow's eye, as the shadows under a child's bed, black as black-eyed Susan's black eyes, black as blackberries thick in a thicket, black as a goth's lipstick, black as a tire mark, black as a beggar's feet, black as a black rose, black as midwinter nights in St. Petersburg, Stockholm, Helsinki, black as a black mass. Okay, now here's soft. So the idea is to bear down, don't get just 2, see if you can get like 10 lines, 12 lines. Soft as a child's cheek, I'm just starting. Soft as a rose petal against your cheek, maybe. Soft as an eiderdown, heard it before. Soft as a whisper, getting started. Soft as a lullaby, soft as a new hatched chick. See, soft, beautiful, all this stuff, it's really hard to get your hand around it. Soft as a mother's voice, shh. Soft as a fine rain, soft as a warm wind, soft as a girl brushing her hair, soft as flan slipping down your throat, soft as a soft hand on your shoulder, soft as grandma's wrinkled cheek, soft as a fat baby, soft as a new recruit, soft as an ostrich plume. See, soft as a new recruit is better because it's completely unexpected. It's a psychological thing. Soft as a new recruit, soft as an ostrich plume, soft as a bubble bath, soft as slippers, as a sheepskin rug, as an Orenburg shawl, which is a metaphor I can use in my book. It's a very fine, I think it's Angora, but they weigh nothing. Huge shawl. It just weighs nothing at all. They're called a wedding ring shawl because you can pass them through a wedding ring, a huge thing. It's like a cloud. It's just gorgeous. Soft as Florida sugar sand. Soft as powdered sugar, as cornstarch, as white flour. See, I'm just getting it out, trying to find something else interesting. Soft as Wonder Bread, as a down pillow, as a chinchilla collar, as rabbit fur, as an old person's hair, as death creeping into a hospital room. A breath. Hard. Hard as a slammed door. Hard as a hard no. See, it's easier to do these because hard is not as lovely and poetic as soft. So it's easier to get something interesting. Hard as a hard no. Hard as a path of shale. Hard as a farm boy's hands. Hard as a Marine sergeant. Hard as a day-old baguette. Hard as a hard truth. hard as a mother's slap, hard as a lover who has already moved on in his mind, hard as a loan officer's refusal, hard as glass candy, hard as a jawbreaker, hard as a required math class, hard as a new language, hard as a TSA officer having a bad day, hard as a BB, as a ball bearing, as an unripe apple, hard as hickory, hard as hard cider, hard as a high dive, as an arabesque on point, hard as a failure in attending a college reunion, hard as chaperoning the junior prom, clean as an operating theater, clean as an old school housewife's kitchen, a balabusta as they used to call it, clean as a hotel bathroom, clean as vinegar wiped windows, clean as new scrubbed children, clean as a peeled banana, clean as grapefruit, clean as a new car, clean as the diver entering the water, clean as a new razor, clean as your nails after swimming in the sea, clean as a sea wind, clean as the gull cutting an air, as a gull cutting the air, clean as billowing sails of a sailboat heeling to the fresh wind, clean as you feel after vomiting a repulsive meal. Okay, here's, there's a lot here. This is, quantity counts when you're doing exercises. You sit down and you really apply yourself to just come up with as much as you can. And the more you do this, the more interesting things come up. Dirty as a nest of mice, as a cat box, as garbage in the street can that the city hasn't emptied in months, as a homeless encampment trash dump, dirty as an old person's telephone, dirty as an airport escalator rail, dirty as a gas station men's room, dirty as a madman's hair, lonely as a seagull's cry, lonely as the last egg in the carton, lonely as a train whistle in the night, a real American loneliness, lonely as a front range highway with a single strand of wire on the telephone poles, lonely as a pier in wintertime, lonely as a new kid on an elementary school playground, lonely as an insomniac at 4 a.m, lonely as a college freshman walking around campus trying to look happy, lonely as foreigners who don't speak the language, lonely as a cloud I never understood, lonely as an old woman's breasts, lonely as a sensitive girl in a basement apartment, lonely as the wife of a cheating spouse, lonely as a registered sex offender, lonely as the mother of a dead child, lonely as a blues harmonica, lonely as going to the crossroads, howling lonely, echoing lonely, lonely as the class weirdo, lonely as the gay kid in elementary school, lonely as a lost dog. Piercing. This goes on and on. Piercing, some of the ones that were good, I liked, were piercing as a well-thrown dart, piercing as a withering glance from your crush, piercing as truck brakes. I'm just going to do a few, but I have 7 lines of these. Capacious as the back seat of a '64 Cadillac. Capacious as grandma's handbag. Capacious as the trunk of a Don's Lincoln. Capacious as Bertrand Russell's head. Capacious as a Russian novel. Capacious as a dim sum restaurant. Capacious as a Texas oil drum barbecue. Capacious as a first-class seat, LA to Australia. Capacious as a club cab cup holder. So, you just sit there and really, instead of just going to the first thing you think of, develop that muscle. And I can keep this and use it anytime. I find that it will save you from finding the same, reaching for the same phrase. Never reach for the same phrase again. It's single-use plastic. We hate single-use plastic, but this is the opposite. You reach for a fresh Kleenex. Reach for a fresh phrase every time, and you have to work on that. To work on that muscle. And so I do it all the time. The ability to make metaphor is intrinsic. It's part of the human being. Everyone can do it. I used to work at my daughter's preschool. My daughter's well out of preschool. But it was cooperative nursery school. So I would go and one of the things I would do is sit on the steps of the playhouse, and kids would tell me a story, and I would write it down and give it to their parents so they can see the origins of written language is oral language. They can start to see the connection. So it's sort of pre-reading training for kids. But one of the things I used to do is ask them for metaphors. I mean, they didn't know what I was doing. But I would ask them, say, these are like 4-year-olds. And I would ask them things like, what's a star like? And they would say that it's like a flower without a stem. That's metaphor. That's beautiful. What's the moon like? It's like a smiling mouth. What's your shoe like? It's like a tiny boat. What's your nose like? And I push their nose. What's your nose like? It's like a tiny, tiny hill. What are my eyebrows like? And they're like 2 bridges over 2 swimming pools. People naturally have this ability for metaphor. And then what happens by the time kids are around 9 or 10, human beings, we lose that metaphoric ability that we are born with. And then they get really literal. They get into that thing that most adults stay with, which is, it is what it is. And that's all it is. I mean, they lose touch with their imagination. And as writers, we don't want to do this. So here's a 10-year-old's response to those same questions. What's this book like? It's like reading about something. It's a lot of words. I mean, that's a direct quote. So where a 4-year-old might say it's a little house, or it's something with wings, or anything, who knows what a 4-year-old would say. But the 10-year-old says it's like reading about something. It's a bunch, because they know what it is, and it cuts off with all the things it could be. A 10-year-old says, what's a TV like, you ask them, and they'll say it's like a movie screen that's close up. I mean, that's the best they can do, most of them. What's this mirror like? It's a weird piece of glass, something that makes another of you. It is what it is. What's the sun like? It's a big ball of fire burning in the sky. So it's not like what's a star like? It's a flower without a stem. You're not getting this metaphorical thinking from the 10-year-olds. What's the moon like? It's like a shining piece of something in the atmosphere, a big glowing thing in the sky. I mean, it breaks your heart. We come from this. This is everybody. We come from this. So as writers, we have to recapture our ability to imagine metaphor. But unlike a small child, most of the metaphors with little kids are shape. So a cognate. So we go from the shape of eyebrows to the shape of hills. Or what was the swimming pool thing? Your eyes are like swimming pools. The moon is like a smiling mouth. It's all shape to shape. But at least they can do it. The older kid just says it's a rock floating in the sky. It's like a rock floating in the sky. Well, it is a rock floating in the sky. So we have to, as writers, we have to recapture our ability to create metaphor. But unlike a small child, we can use abstract things as well and ideas as well as shapes and colors. So what's a mirror like? It's like a window into what I don't know about myself. That's why kids stare into the mirror so much, teenagers especially, because I don't know who I am. So I'm going to keep looking in that mirror, keep looking in that mirror. So you can say it's like a window, or you can say it's a window. And it's stronger to leave out the like and just say it is. Anything you can assert positively like that is stronger in writing. What's your shoe like? It's like an older woman who's kept her figure and dyes her hair red, because I was wearing red high heels. It's an older woman who's kept her figure and dyes her hair red. So it's a certain kind of shoe, but it no longer has to be a little boat. I can move out of that into the world. So here are some exercises if you want to try this. What's the moon like? What is a cat like? What's trash in the street like? What's a street like? A street light like? What is, somebody that you know, what's their hair like? What is somebody's voice like? Pick somebody's voice that you're very familiar with. Jack Nicholson. What's your mother's voice like when she's mad at you? And then start creating some interesting metaphors. Let's see. Oh, there was a wonderful metaphor. Let's see if I have it written down somewhere. Extended metaphor. That was in a friend's book. I mean, sometimes you can extend the metaphor and get a whole paragraph. I have a friend who named Warwick Downing, who writes detective novels, and he had a metaphor for the city of Denver, where his books are set, and he described Denver getting up in the morning like an old whore who normally like rolls out of bed drunk, hungover. He described kind of the smog and how he related it to this old hooker, but that sometimes she can really pull it together, and on this day when the detective is doing something, it's usually a lawyer actually, is doing something, it was like she got herself together and put her makeup right, got the lipstick in the right place, and how she still can dazzle you. So that's detective novel. That's not flowery. That's not excessive. That makes the book. We understand Denver, or at least how this writer is able to make us see Denver in a way we never saw it before. And that's why people read your stuff, is they want to see what they've never seen before. They want to see something in a way they've never seen before, or they want to understand something more deeply than they usually have time to do. They don't have time to think about what is Denver like. I mean, if you live there, you usually don't have time to think of an overarching way of seeing Denver that in its time and place creates the city in a literary way. These metaphors, when I write about LA, or Susan Straight writes about it, or God, Didion, Chandler, this is how a city is created in the culture, is through its writers describing it in ways that you never forget. You never forget, hopefully I've created a couple of those for LA, or maybe even for St. Petersburg, if, I don't know if the Russians are reading it, but for for you, maybe you're seeing it differently, or you see it in a way that it was vague before, and now I understand how that works. So I'm open to answering questions. Definitely read Chandler if you want to see some great metaphor. He does a lot of hyperbole and understatement, that in his metaphors, that reflects the ironic tone of his character. So the ironic tone of Philip Marlowe, his Chandler's detective, is a man who doesn't really like what he's seeing, but is being paid. So he's not really a rebel. He's somebody who is kind of stoic and having to deal. But in his mind, he's describing things in a way that you recognize that he sees the corruption and the ironies. And it creates character. So what can I... ask me something, and I'll try to answer it. As far as metaphor or anything else. How do you know if you're too bogged down in nuance? Do you have any examples? Not at hand. I would have had to have had that at hand to do it. But you know that you are getting too off the track if you are creating nuance in a way that, like, I would never put all of those metaphors that I was creating, those associations, in a book. One good one is enough. Often you don't want more than one, because you don't want... Writing is funny. You want to create a clear picture in the reader's head. So if you give them a metaphor that's really strong, and they're seeing that hooker, the Denver as this whore, and you have one example of that, and then suddenly he says Denver's like a swan, you go, wait a second, I thought it was like a whore. You actually are diluting the image you've just created. You want to strengthen the image. You don't want to confuse reader confusion. You don't want to dilute what you've just done by giving them an or else it's like this, it's like the reader's going, I don't know, I don't see it anymore. What else? Can you explain how you set up that listing of metaphors? I just go big as blank. I make a list on my computer, big as blank, small as blank, loud as blank, quiet as blank, white as blank, black as blank, cold as blank, red as blank. Just make a list of different things that will have standard cliches, big as a house, small, quiet as a mouse, all that stuff. And you just make a list. And then there are times that you're writing and you want to, like for me, that intricate as. I have something intricate that I want to describe, so I included intricate as, and then I did that. What is intricate? And some things are appropriate for what I was writing, the Russian Revolution, and some of them are not. But you should never stop yourself when you're doing these exercises. You have to like turn on the spigot and let it flow, let it flow, let it flow. And so you'll get a lot of clunkers, and you just like, whatever. You can erase them if you want or just leave them. But just know, you'll know what's good. So you use what's good and you leave the clunkers. Thank you. What else can I questions that you might have about metaphor? Extended metaphor is it's really interesting, but you can't do it too much, like that extended metaphor of the old prostitute waking up and out of bed, and but this is setting up his city. He does it at the beginning of the book or near the beginning of the book, but it can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the beginning. You just don't want to do it too often, because the reader does have a breaking point with how much they can absorb. So kill the cliche. Try to find, really do exercises. Do it every day, before you write. Give yourself half an hour or even 15 minutes. Set the timer. Always a timer. Always a timer. So you just know, I have 15 minutes to do this, and then I'm going to get into my writing. It's really important. I would do like half an hour and then 20 minutes of this, and then read poetry for 10, because the poets have incredible metaphors. I remember reading, I do a lot of Sexton. I love to read her. And let's see, have I shelved her? Did I put her off the desk so I can put this camera up there? She was talking about licking. I licked you, something clean as an almond. Clean as an almond. It's gorgeous. Some of the writing. So the poets have the metaphor, and it just pops your head. So that's why I thought of clean as. And then clean as suggested dirty as. But these exercises, a lot of writing is about weightlifting. And you can't lift, 300 pounds just by deciding you want to do it. You have to start with this, and, you get something a little heavier, and you get the barbell, the dumbbell, whatever the long one is, barbell, and you start adding weights. And this is the weightlifting. This is the preparation to write, which is just as important as the writing. If you haven't done this, it's very difficult to do the other. So anyway, barring any more questions, then we'll see you next week. And definitely, if you have if you think of more questions that you want me to answer next week, just write them in the comments, and I'll read them, and I'll save them, and I'll address them next week. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming. All right.